Hello and welcome to the TTV podcast. I'm Var.
I'm John.
I'm Takuma Nuva.
And I am purple.
And this is the TTV podcast episode.
Wait.
Who cares?
Wait a second.
Today
Are we
we've
doing
got
the-
a
are we
variety
doing a
of
tired
topics.
Are we doing a tired
Oh.
bit now? Is that what we're doing?
Today we've got a variety of topics, ranging from
Next topic we got set up.
Is that really what we...
That's where we're going with.
Is that really the thumbnail for the video right now?
That's
Yeah,
the thumbnail
dude.
for the video.
Oh gosh.
Xanax Brigida.
Oh
Yo.
gosh.
Brigida, best girl right now.
Oh, it hurts.
Okay. I haven't actually played her that much, so
Wait, oh, okay, but you have played her.
I played her for about 2 seconds in the training grounds.
No way. Did you not play her at all during our matches the other day?
No,
She didn't. No. She
Why
didn't.
not?
no, just wanted to play other characters. Also, you guys kept fighting over her, so I was like, okay, I'll just wait my turn.
There was literally a segment where 0 people were fighting over it, and AT was just playing it over and over again.
Oh. Okay.
He was literally like, if anyone else wants to play Brigida, just ask. And I was like, hey, can I play her? And he was like, sure. And I was like, cool. So you had your chance.
Well, I don't know how to play her either.
Brigida kind of reminds me of because we're at there's this big thing right now that we're going on internally where no one knows how to pronounce her name. John hasn't even tried to pronounce her name right. It's actually pretty
Listen.
entertaining whenever he tries
It's Bridget.
because it's a complete lack of trying.
It's
She says
it's
her own
Bridget.
name in the video.
Bridita. Brigader.
See, now you're trying, but before you would just say Bridget.
I'm not sure Brigader is a legit
of-
try.
Brood.
I mean, I got Brigader kind of. Nah, you're right. It's not. That's not true.
Well, I mean, okay. The thing is that I for sure thought it was Bridget. And then it's
I mean, yeah, I
oh,
thought it
no,
was Bridget
it's
too.
I mean, yeah.
It was like Brigida, and I'm like, okay, I don't know anymore. And then
Reinhardt
isn't
does have
there
a voice line where he's like Brigitte.
Brigitte?
Yeah.
So I thought
That's why
that
I
was
say
first.
Brigitte. But maybe that's
It's
just
not
the
Brigitte.
German pronunciation of the name or something.
It's not. I looked up the German pronunciation and
Oh.
the Swedish pronunciation.
Yeah,
Both
it's
Why
Brigitte.
does
just
he,
no
why does he
point
pronounce
to
it like that?
We
And
don't
it
know.
doesn't make any sense.
Because
It
he's
makes no sense.
old.
Like
What does
it-
that
it's,
have to do with anything?
it's a little different. I think Swedish sounds more like Brigitta, whereas German's is more like Brigida.
I should just
But,
I ride on the train to work with somebody who came from Sweden every day. I should just ask her how it's pronounced.
I mean, it's Brigitta.
I'm just for curiosity's sake.
You're not. You already know what to expect, Akuma. It's Brigitta. Now, if she says Brigitte, then it's like, okay, what's going on now?
There's a conspiracy.
There's a conspiracy.
people
We're
were
getting
saying
two
that,
heroes. One's
she
Bridget
has-
and one's Brigitte.
That's Hero 28. Do we really have
Here-
27 heroes?
Dude, wait. Minor
Yes.
thing that totally
It
annoys
is.
me. The 27th hero was revealed on February 28th. They couldn't have just put it a day before and did 27/27. That would have been funny.
I know, right? Marvel. Can
Would
move
it-
up
would
their
that have been
release date for
funny?
Avengers, but
I don't know if funny is the right word. It
Would
never
that have
really
been
is.
funny? Oh my gosh!
would've been
Hero
kinda
27
cool.
on the 27th day! Haha,
Half-Life 3 confirmed.
lol!
Maybe it would have been a little amusing.
Would it have, though?
No, Purple,
Yeah.
you're a little amusing. That would have just been trying for nothing.
I don't know. I think patterns of random stuff is kind of cool.
Is it, though?
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool, but I don't
Is
know
it?
if I would say it's pretty funny.
I mean, we are, custom coded to detect patterns in things where they don't really exist.
It's true, right? That's why I
So-
keep thinking girls like me when I'm kidding.
Exactly.
Forever
It's like
long.
whenever a girl talks to you, it's like, oh, she
Right.
talked to me
Oh,
today and
wow.
yesterday. This is a
Yeah.
pattern. Clearly, she likes me.
Oh
Clearly,
yeah,
she's in love with
she's
me.
into
And then you go back and
Come
watch,
send
and
her
it's just
flowers.
like she just asked for hey, can I borrow your pencil?
Oh my
Exactly. Yep.
Brigitta's name, like the whole like name controversy. It's not a controversy, but the whole name thing. It reminds me of like Hermione.
Hermione.
Yeah, back when Harry Potter first came out. Before the movie, no one knew how to freaking pronounce Hermione's name.
I literally did think up until that part in was it Goblet of Fire where she has to like tell Victor Crumb, she actually goes Hermione, and I'm like, what? I was up until that point I read it as Hermione.
Wow, you didn't know how to pronounce her name up until Goblet of Fire? That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair though, like my parents didn't want me to read the books as a kid, so I read them all when I was 18, and I binge read them. So like, I didn't know, but I didn't know for like maybe a week.
Wow. You ever saw the movies or anything? No one ever talked about it with you?
No, you know, I had seen parts of the movies. To be fair, I had seen parts of the movies growing up, but I just didn't remember how her name was pronounced.
Fair enough, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Hermione, I think is the most like common mispronunciation of her name.
It makes sense. Hermione.
Yeah. I think Hermione makes a lot of sense once you like look at it and you know how it's meant to be pronounced. It's like, oh yeah, that of course. I can't believe I didn't see that before, but Hermione is such a stupid, weird name.
I mean, I think it sounds cool.
I just called her Sarah or Jessica.
Hermione?
Yeah, Hermione. That's kind of cool.
Hermione? Really? Sounds gross.
Hermione.
It's like Helga.
I mean, it was supposed to be an old.
These are my daughters. This is Helga and Hermione.
And Dorcas.
Shut up, Byakuya.
I think that like J.K. Rowling was originally going to. She wanted to have an old name that no one used anymore, because she was like everyone made fun of her at the beginning. She wasn't very well liked, you know, and she wasn't like, and she was the smartest witch, but she was kind of like an unlikable character for a good while. And then the movies came out, and then you know Emma Watson brought a whole new level of stuff to Hermione, and now like you know there you go. Who's the like in terms of like kids that were named for that character in Harry Potter? What's the oldest Hermione? You think there's someone named their kid Hermione?
The second the book came out or something?
The second the book came out, or like maybe after, maybe even when the movies came out. But like I remember seeing this post on Tumblr where it's like, I work at a preschool, and today this 4-year-old said, "Hi, my name's Hermione," and I was like, "They're here, they're here."
It has begun.
There's a lot of kids named Khaleesi right now, which is weird
know,
because that's not even the name.
Wait, what? I don't get it.
It's from Game of Thrones.
Khaleesi is from Game of Thrones.
It means queen, I believe, in Dothraki.
Oh,
Dothraki.
boy.
Yeah.
There we go. Now we're just setting them up for disappointment.
Yeah, but I mean, like the character's name is actually Daenerys. Everybody calls her Khaleesi because she's the queen of the Dothraki.
It's funny because though recently she has not been really referred to as Khaleesi.
I noticed that. I noticed that the other day. I was like, I don't think I've heard anyone call her Khaleesi in like 3 seasons.
Yeah. Not
Spoilers. Because she survived so long.
Dude, yes, she does. It's not a spoiler. Not at all.
Listen, there are certain spoilers you cannot avoid. We don't try to say who died, but there are certain people still alive.
There are certain people who, yeah.
If Jon Snow dies, I'm suing.
Hey, you know what? We should watch Game of Thrones again.
We should. Let's watch Game of Thrones tonight.
Thank you.
Let's do it.
You want to watch Game of Thrones tonight? Oh
my God! Did he die?
I've got to go to.
Or are y'all doing this on purpose because he's still alive? I don't know which.
I don't know how to answer your question.
Right? What is it? I don't know what
You
to
ever
say.
heard of Schrodinger's cat?
Jon Snow is both alive and dead until you watch the episode. Schrodinger's.
Wait, the episode? As in there's a specific episode? Oh my God, he dies.
No, just the episodes.
No, you said it singular. You said it singular, implying a specific episode that you were referencing.
I assumed it was just whatever. I don't.
No, whichever one you watch. He's like all the characters are.
Just let her think what she wants to think, John.
Okay. All right. I'm going out. Oh, I should change the photo to Jon Snow. By the way, I keep forgetting that like when we're doing the podcast one where I have to like, oh yeah, I there's no like set topic.
I want to talk about this whole Zane Brigitte thing. Dang it! Now I screwed it up. Brigitte. Dang it! I quit.
Aw. Well,
all right.
We'll miss you.
You want to talk about this? You want to talk about our new best ship?
Zane and Brigitte, the new best ship.
The new
Are you
best ship.
serious?
He's got a heart of gold and hands of cold, and she's
Hands of cold?
Hands.
I mean, I guess.
making free stuff. I know it was a stretch. I will give you
Oh,
that.
I was thinking like
guess.
heavy metal.
And also because he's a robot.
That also
Yeah.
works.
Wow. he's
Even
a
still, it's like
cold-hearted
this
robot.
isn't like
Pretty sure
this
it's
isn't a
like
quality that you want.
or something.
I really
he's
want-
Not gonna get a beer
I really
belly.
want my love to have cold hands.
Hey, he'll never get a beer belly. He'll remember. Oh, he'll remember things. That's
Oh,
bad.
he'll remember things. Yeah. Well, I mean,
What
like
does that have to do
he
with cold
probably
hands?
Speaking of cold hands, Game of Thrones, right?
Okay, just move on then. Sure.
No, I mean, like, I want to toss that in real quick. Book readers know what I'm talking about. Cold hands, man. He kind of appeared in the show a little bit, not really.
I didn't read the books.
If her cell phone ever goes out, she can probably just like plug it into his shoulder.
That would be so useful. That would be worth getting a boyfriend for. Like if you're thinking things going down. If you're
All
like
the-
Key
all
to,
the-
key to John's heart, being able to plug things in.
All those white Starbucks Valley
Right.
girls.
listen,
They're gonna be like,
I'm
I need
just
a
saying
boyfriend with a USB port in his shoulder. It's like,
yeah, my
I don't need a
boyfriend has
shoulder
both
to
a lightning
cry
cable
on
and a USB-C cable.
charge with.
So
What are you
Wow,
guys
dude, that's really
talking
impressive, man. We're talking about USB chargers, Purple. Oh my gosh,
about?
keep up.
Okay, you want to know what's really weird?
Boyfriend
Wireless chargers. How do those work?
there's
What do you mean,
magnets.
they're just batteries.
No,
Yeah,
she's
but they
talking
like
about like
transmit the energy
It's
to the
witchcraft.
they
phone
don't
without.
transmit any energy.
plugging it in.
That's not how it
Oh.
works.
Oh,
Okay, so
I didn't realize the kind of. I see what
Basically,
you're
the
talking about.
wireless charging, what it does is that, from what I am to understand, it uses magnets to kind of like power the battery inside the phone.
Oh,
And
All
so,
I
God.
really
like-
know is that, yeah, there's like you could get like a special pad or whatever you want to call it for like
Right.
the Wiimotes and probably some phones too now. Where yeah, you just let them sit on top of it and that would somehow charge them.
All phones
I can't
now,
remember whether or not it
the new
required
iPhone has that.
what's the word I'm looking for? Specific batteries. I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of.
Well, the new iPhones definitely have that compatibility now, and most of the Androids do too. Obviously, with the Androids, everyone makes their own version of an Android phone. So I don't know if it's like consistent among all the new ones. I know most of the new Samsung ones do it as well. But wireless charging is now basically what it does is that like you charge. Think of it now. Well, this is a very basic way to think of it. You ever had one of those twist like radios or flashlights?
Push radios?
Oh, one of the crank flashlights.
Oh,
yeah.
the crank ones. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Nope.
Yeah.
So imagine that you have a crank flashlight, but it has like a magnet on one end, and then you put a thing behind it, and you power that the magnet, the other magnet. So one is an electromagnet, and it spins the crank for you.
This sounds like you're like 2 steps away from creating a bomb. Well, you see, you take this crank that charges electricity into this metal plate, and then you shove an electric device on top of it,
Do you ever
sending
hear about
all
that kid?
this.
Do you ever hear about that kid that like legitimately he wrote a paper in high school about how to make a atomic bomb, and it was so accurate
What?
the FBI came to his school and confiscated his,
Are you
his
serious?
report. Yeah, like for the project, it was like go into it was like a chemistry project or something, and he was like they were like write how to make something, and he was like, oh, I'm going to research how to make an atomic bomb, and his report was so detailed and specified, the FBI had to confiscate that. They came to his school and everything.
Wow, that's crazy.
It happened like in the
I
the
believe it.
60s, to be fair. So it wasn't
Oh,
like a
and
Ah, that makes sense. Well, it doesn't make sense because I don't know how that kid would know that. Like now, you
Yeah.
can just Google
Smart.
things, right?
That's true,
But, like,
right? Yeah.
How
here,
the
let me
heck would
see.
he know that?
It's called. He's nicknamed the A-bomb kid. I'm looking at this this website. I read about it.
That kid's a
Okay.
bomb. Or should I say the bomb?
Oh gosh.
That's really fascinating,
Yeah.
though. It's a really smart
1976.
kid. I don't know
Yeah,
how
yeah,
you could
sorry, it
how he
wasn't
would
his high school,
possibly
it was,
have that information.
University. Yeah, I
But
don't
like,
know. either.
I would get why the FBI would want to like confiscate that, especially during that time. It's like Cold War era. Like we got to make sure no one else can figure out how to do this, so we don't have to worry about other people nuking us.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently the teacher his teachers told him that he would give him an A, but as soon as the grade was registered, the paper had to be burned. The term paper ended up in the FBI, which seized and classified it, and the following months, a Pakistani embassy tried to get a copy, but it was too late.
Little did they know they had Albert Einstein in their school.
Yep, there you go.
Do you guys know that? I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody knew this, but like Albert Einstein, when he died, they like extracted his brain from his body without anyone's permission. Like, not Albert's permission, not his family's permission. They just stole his brain.
Oh, that's creepy.
Oh, you didn't know this?
I did not know that, actually.
Okay, yeah. So Albert Einstein died, and like without anyone's knowledge, the doctor that was like, I guess there, like cut open his head and took his brain out to study it. Because he was like the smartest guy alive, so they were like trying to figure out what's.
Listen, it's weird, but like, I mean, he's the smartest guy alive. You're gonna let that?
Yeah, no, I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
Right?
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that I found strange about it, though, because like his justification for it was that I want to study this brain so that we can, I guess, figure out how to make people smarter or something, or figure out what made Albert Einstein so different.
Right.
Which that's where I'm like, okay, yeah, I follow along with that. But then the guy cuts out the brain, he splits it into 3 segments and keeps it in jars for like 30 years, secret from the government, from anyone, from any other like people who could study it. He just kept it in a jar.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything with the knowledge or anything and just left it there. So like the potential of actually studying it and deciphering any information from it was basically just kind of moot, you know?
Yeah, like it was probably like he was reasoning when he first did it, and then it was like then it became like super creepy, right? So he can't like. He probably felt really guilty about it.
It became super creepy. You realize, oh, I can't tell anyone about this. This is actually really weird.
I can't. Yeah, it's just kind of weird. You know, as much as like Albert Einstein was a smart dude, I don't know if I would say he's the smartest guy that ever lived. If I literally had to point to someone who I would be like, we do need to figure out how that guy's brain worked because he was so different from everyone else. Because like Einstein was still like he was still a normal functioning.
I'm really
human.
curious to hear who you had to say.
Nikola Tesla.
Oh, okay,
was
okay.
legitimately like that guy. There's like some people are just they're super smart. They're geniuses. This guy was on another level. He never took any notes for his stuff. He would build his things, and then people would come after him to like, and his understudies would take notes on what he made, so they could reverse engineer that. Like this guy, just like he was insane. He had a relationship with a pigeon. Do you guys know about that?
A relationship with a pigeon, like a lovey-dovey relationship.
I don't even think it was a lovey-dovey relationship, but he did. He has a quote where he's like, "I came to think of that pigeon as a man thinks of a wife." My voice cracked. I'm 22. There's just some latent puberty to be had there. But no, like he literally is like, I came to think of this pigeon as a man.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm legitimately 22.
I thought you were older than that.
Why do you think I was older than that?
Takuma, you're the old man of the group.
You're a kid.
We're all kids, but you, dude.
Yeah, we're all super young, man. I'm I'm 22 as well, man.
You're so old. Why?
Less than 2 years.
Okay, listen.
I'm getting very conflicting reactions now.
Yeah, listen.
In less than 2 years, I'm gonna be 30.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you're an old man. You're gross, dude. You're disgusting.
And I'm saying
you're gonna be 30, dude?
So am I.
I'm 28.
Okay, well, Katuma's 28.
I've been 28 for the past 2 years now.
Listen, Takuma, just think about it this way. You might be 28 now. Gavin Free is also 28 and a billionaire. So.
Yeah, Gavin is 28. He's a billionaire. He's not a billionaire. He's probably
you're not helping.
He's not all he does is go around, have a really great time, be really famous on the internet, sleep of his, really nice house,
and almost get shot.
Yeah,
he did almost get shot. That was the thing that almost happened
because of his supermodel girlfriend that he got as soon as he came.
That's creepy, by the way. That story is all kinds of like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I had a lot of conflicting feelings about that. Most of it was anger towards that fan.
We never talked about it, but that was one of the most frustrating things, honestly.
Yeah.
that I've ever had to read
Just
about
goes
or
to show you
experience or
shouldn't get a
anything.
famous girl friend.
Well,
Just goes to show you shouldn't be famous ever.
I'm just like, I'm thinking about like this. Both Meg and Gavin, I followed them for a very long while, right? And it's like a thing where it was just so creepy to hear about that some guy on the internet got so obsessed that he was just like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna go back into their house and
And try to kill them.
try to kill him, just try to shoot him dead. It was just like
Just try to kill them.
it was so surreal
That's
when
my
I read
girl.
about it. I remember like
Yeah,
when I saw the news article, I thought it was fake. Honestly, I was like, "There's no way that actually happened to anybody," but turns out it did.
It's pretty frustrating. I don't know, man. It's weird. Like fan bases are just so strange, and it also it's frustrating because a lot of people will be like, you always have those people that are like, oh well, what do you have to complain about? You're like famous and rich and everything, and your life is amazing. But and then you have like stories like this where it's like, it's not always great. Or awesome to be famous. You know?
Just because you're famous doesn't mean there's like there aren't problems in your life.
I would be very, very nervous about interacting with my fan base at all after that. Like if that happened to me, I'd be like, you know what?
I would be too.
Like,
yeah,
I'm
nervous interacting with our fan base now. We're like not even famous. We're like X-list.
Yeah.
We're X-list
Sure.
celebrities at best, and I'm
Body
nervous about
model
interacting
list.
with our fans.
Yeah, we're like Z-list. We're at the very, very bottom.
I've seen enough
I'd say X.
I've seen enough like weird, crazy, like disturbing people in this community, the bionicle community, that I'm like, I don't know how I feel about getting even more famous than we are now. I don't know if I want that to happen.
I mean, like, to be fair, there's a lot of, the bionicle community is kind of interesting. The demographic for that, there's a lot of people who like are just they're older, but they haven't grown up. to be completely real, there's
Is he talking about me again?
No, but listen, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody in this call that might be turning 30 in 2 years. But no, for real though, sometimes there's just kind of a thing where it's like, like every fan base has some, a wave of people, especially when you've been around for a long while. But Bionicle's been around for a really, really long while. And it's just kind of that thing where it's like, sometimes you get people who, like a lot of the people of the old Bionicle fan base that I knew have grown up. And then, like, some of the people that are still around were like, oh, well, like myself, I haven't grown up.
All right.
There we have it.
It was a very angering news article that I saw. I was like, oh, man, how could anyone even try to attack such a treasure as Gavin Free?
I know, right? Can you imagine the podcast without Gavin?
I would be very
so depressing.
Dude, just the thinking about, like, what could have been really irritates me. It just makes me so mad.
That would have like.
I'm so happy it had a
celebrity
happy
deaths
ending.
Don't impact me like in the same way. Like celebrity deaths are in a weird thing where you're like you feel bad, but not like super sad. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like
it depends on who it is, because like there've been a couple people whose deaths have like really like hit me, but
Nah.
Like who?
Robin Williams and Chester Bennington.
Chester Bennington was a pretty tough one, yeah.
Yeah. I mean the only celebrity that really impacted me that I actually like legitimately felt super bad about was Monty Ohm. That was that was the one that like I was like, man, I have grown. Like I had such an appreciation for his work. I had met him once basically, but he was the only celebrity I met that like kind of like passed away shortly thereafter. And that was the first time I was like, this actually really impacts me. But Carrie Fisher, love her work, and I was sad when she died, but not like, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't like my family member died sad. I wasn't like it was like oh man, that really sucks. I'm really sad about that. But
yeah, I was sad about it in like almost like a selfish way. I was like, oh, now what are they gonna do for Star Wars? That's what I thought. Right? Which sucks. Like that's an awful thing to like think when someone passes away, but I didn't know her personally, and that's kind of that's sort of where my sadness came from.
Yeah, it's like the only way you know her is through like movies.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, like it's obviously if your first reaction, if you're publicly you come out and you're like your first reaction is what happens to Star Wars. It is a little insensitive to the people that know her when you're like that's your first reaction. But I don't think that's like I don't think that's disrespectful. Some people were mad like when Monty Ohm passed away. A lot of people are like, what's gonna happen to Ruby? And some people were mad about that. His friends.
People are just like genuinely curious.
Yeah.
I mean,
that is their.
how
yeah,
you
that's their
interact with them. That's
connection
your
to that
point of
person.
contact. Right. Like, and it's this very important thing that you value. So I guess that, to me, that does make sense. That your first reaction is like, what happens to the thing that I connect with you on? You know, this thing that the reason I know you. What happens to that?
Oh man, no one's gonna care when I die.
Oh,
Takuma, no.
I don't do anything.
You just
I mean,
listen,
you're
make an
here
RPG,
right now
man.
talking.
Yeah, Takuma.
You listen. If you passed away, God forbid, but if something ever happened to you, there would be a lot of people around the world legitimately upset about it.
Hang on, did you say if? As in, like, if he
Well, I
dies?
meant, like,
Well,
I mean,
yes.
you know,
If he
listen,
dies,
Pimple, maybe
like he-
who knows? Maybe Takuma will have his brain frozen and cut up into 3 parts and then return again in a new robot body. Cold hands. in
Yeah,
the
I'm
future.
nowhere near Einstein levels.
Would you
of,
freeze your brain? Ever? Would you like?
every time I eat ice
Totally,
cream?
yeah.
I would think you
Not
would.
really. I don't want anything to like happen to my body after I die. Because like I think in my religion, well actually, can I even talk about that if it's religious?
Hard to say.
Tell us.
Be as long
mean,
as like
I've said
sure,
things before. Jonathan's said things
it's your
before,
personal opinion about something. I guess but
Yeah, I'm like saying a
lightly.
thing
lightly.
that exists within my religion. I'm not
Sure.
like saying.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so like in my religion, your body still, or I guess my body, if I'm talking about myself, would still feel pain after I die. So
Interesting.
I don't want my head to get cut open.
that would be undesirable.
I mean,
would
that's
be-
pretty
yeah,
fair. Yeah,
that's
that's
fair.
a
Yeah.
fair
That's a
reason
good
to not
reasoning
want.
behind it. For me, honestly, like you know, my religion has a concept of a soul, and I don't know if like freezing my brain would do something to that. There's no like precedent in it. Obviously, when most of the major world religions were written, the concept of freezing your brain and putting it in a robot body wasn't around. people weren't thinking about that. So maybe not. there isn't like one official source out there that's like this is what's gonna happen in the afterlife if you put your brain inside a robot body, or you upload your consciousness to a digital mainframe like the Matrix or something.
Right.
I don't know, but
I don't care what happens to
I'm
my
over
body
it.
when I'm dead. Do whatever
Do
you
you-
will, people.
there's a
Society.
cool
I don't
theory.
care.
There's an interesting conspiracy theory I heard, and that is, you know how like Moana and Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid, they all have titles related to the main character, right? Like it's just the main character and that
Mhm.
and that thing, except for 2 movies, Tangled and Frozen. There's a conspiracy theory that they named the movie Frozen so that when you search for Disney Frozen, it would not return results about Walt Disney's head being frozen in a cryogenic.
Wow.
But
What?
instead would return results from his
That's
movie.
not just a tinfoil hat. That's like an entire suit.
Yeah, that's really stretching.
Ascot,
I was like,
everything.
wow,
tinfoil.
that's the weirdest conspiiracy theory I've ever heard. But
What
I was
about
like,
Tangled,
actually,
then?
to be fair, well, I mean,
Walt
people have
Disney
been
Tangled.
theorizing-
You don't want you searching about how Walt Disney's body is a tangled web of
People are
spiders.
talking about Disney. I don't know why Disney in particular, his head is the one that's frozen. But people have been talking about Walt Disney's head being frozen and like in cryogenic stasis for ages. That's been a huge theory. I don't know
Well,
why.
I believe that's a theory that's existed since Walt Disney's death. Like it's an old theory, and for
That's
whatever
what I'm
reason,
saying,
it's just stuck
Don't know
around.
why.
And that's why they kind of like were like, all right, cool, Disney Frozen. So whenever you search that, you get Elsa.
Yeah, I don't
You
know,
can
dude.
search Disney's head frozen.
I mean, listen, we didn't know. I mean, we knew that Einstein's brain was extracted, right? But no one
Well,
knew
you
what
did.
happened to it. Well, no, I mean, like society knew.
Yeah, okay.
Like people knew that his brain was extracted. No one knew what happened to it. We only found out like where the brain was and what had happened to it like recently, like
Yeah, but
2013,
that's
I think.
because
Oh,
that is
gosh.
because like some dude when that dude did that, he was like doing it because he thought Einstein was a super smart person. Like Disney's a creative guy who did build like a really big company, but like I wouldn't say.
Well,
if
yeah,
I
no,
had to
no,
be
no.
like, whose brain am I
The
looking at?
reasoning behind it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, if Disney's brain has been frozen, or his head has been frozen, we might not. It might be true. We might not know about it. Like we
Do you
didn't know about
think-
Einstein's.
Do you think Disney would be happy at the status of his company right now?
I have no idea, honestly.
I think no.
I'm thinking of like I remember people
I
were
think
talking
he'd
about
be
this on
like,
Disney Channel.
why do we have movies with a black person in it?
What?
I don't think Disney would be very happy at all about the state of his company.
No, you know what? No. Listen. I'm gonna defend Walt Disney here. He did make Song of the South. I mean, Song of the South is a very insensitive movie right now. But at the time, at the time it was made, the dude, he made like this movie with this character, Uncle Remus, right? Who's like, he was a main character in the movie. And it was so bad at that time that like the guy literally could not attend his own movie because they had segregated movie theaters. That was the tone that he made Song in the South in. So yeah, I mean, like, sure, you look back at it now and it's not like the greatest. You know, it definitely could have used a bit more nuance.
I'm kind of also of the
today's
opinion, like,
culture, but
sure, slaves is a bad thing, but at the same time, it's like,
oh boy,
are we just gonna pretend like it didn't happen?
Yeah.
No.
I think it's fair. I just think like if Disney were to see the company now, I think that the changes that he would see, he wouldn't necessarily be happy with
sure.
because of the time he grew up in. You know, like he'd be like, "Wow, I built up such a corporate empire. This is amazing." Sure, are a lot of Jews here though. You know, like that's what Disney would be like. That's Disney.
He was like he was kind of anti-Semitic. He was reportedly anti-Semitic at certain points in time. But like the anti-Semitism that was recorded might have matched what other people were saying around the time. Like there was just like there's like acceptable jokes that like right now we could be in a position in the future where some people are like, hey, they made jokes about a robot boyfriend. That's not cool now. Not in today's day and age of the year 2040.
Oh yeah, it's like, man, there sure are a lot of robots here.
Yeah, right.
Like 2058.
It's 2058, dude. What are you talking about? Robots are people too.
I can marry whatever I want.
I mean, listen, I'm saying this might actually be a real thing. Like we might be coming back and looking at this later and being like, you know, like years and years.
Oh, we absolutely will. This will be a problem.
Like,
I guarantee it. In 20 years, robot rights will be a problem.
You want to do TTV talks about robot
like
relationships?
Like,
you want to get into that?
No. It's too heady, dude.
But like, robots are. It's gonna be interesting. When people are like, robots have autonomy and they're sentient and they can decide for themselves, they can vote. Like, do robots get to vote? And what happens with like? You
would think so. They have to live in this country too, you know.
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
You know, are they living in this country though?
They might not be living. Who knows? We don't.
But can they think that they can think for themselves and have emotions? Then, but are they really emotions though? Because it's not a brain; it's a coded
emotion.
It's like a program. But then again, aren't we programmed?
Aren't we programs?
It all comes down to free will.
Well, what defines free will, Takuma? If the robot can think for itself and create its own decisions, then is that not free will?
We're gonna have some really heady.
I would say there's a difference between
Is there a
thinking for
movie about this
yourself
with Will Smith?
and
iRobot.
making logical.
There are plenty of movies like this.
Most
by the way.
movies with robots.
Ex Machina, iRobot, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're all there.
I mean, I would say even Bionicle.
Westworld.
Okay, here's my question though. What are we gonna have to deal with first? Robot rights or augmentation rights?
Robot rights. I don't think augmentation is going to be that big of a problem.
I mean, like, what do you mean by augmentation? Like,
have you played like Deus Ex Human Revolution at all or anything like that?
I mean,
just this whole idea of like what is considered, you know, should we be allowed to do any sort of like mechanical or whatever cyborg augmentation?
I think
body? Will there be limitations? You know, I mean.
I do. Think
it'll be a very similar issue to some of the things that we deal with right now, but in a different way.
Like guns. It'll be very similar to the gun conversation.
Yeah, it would. It would.
Yeah.
Or even deeper conversations. I think it'd be like about like what you can do with your own body versus what that means to other people, whatever kind of thing. You know, like.
Mm-hmm.
I think that ultimately augmenting yourself wouldn't actually affect anyone but you, you know? So it's like,
yeah.
I think...
Well, I mean, it all depends on what
I-
kind of augmentations you get. Like, a specific example from
Right.
the game is
Oh, I can already think of one. Like
people
there
who
have
can
been
get brain chips to like make them think faster or read a person better.
What were you gonna say, Bart?
might
I can already see where this is going though. Like, well, big controversy that would happen is one that's already being brought up right now: designer babies.
That's what I was gonna get into. CRISPR
Designer
and designer
babies?
babies.
Olympics.
Being- being a
There was a story already about a guy who like wanted to be in the Olympics. I think he was like a double amputee on his legs or something. I don't remember, but he was augmented. But because of that, he was actually able to run faster than people who actually still had their real legs. It wasn't designed for that. It's just kind of what happened. And so
Right.
then an issue. Okay, you know how do you?
But here's the thing, though. Here's where the problem starts to go in. Because augmenting yourself is one thing, because you can consent to that, right? So I don't think that's going to be much of a problem. It'd be like getting a tattoo. People will look down upon it depending on how they feel about it. But other people will be like, yeah, it's totally fine. It's your right to do that. It's when you start augmenting your children or other people around
Right,
you,
that
that's
will
where
be
the
a
controversy
thing.
is going to arrive.
And
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so polio is a problem. It's not a problem anymore, but if it was a problem, we were like, we want to defeat polio once and for all. Why don't we just augment our children to be against, to be able to survive polio or cancer, survive cancer.
like Alzheimer's.
I mean,
or
to an
anything your
extent,
family has
that's
a history
Or
of.
Alzheimer's.
That's
yeah.
like that's just vaccinating kids. Really, when you
Sure,
think
but
about it.
like in this
Yeah, but, like-
sense, you're basically changing their genetic coding before they're
Well, yeah.
born to be able to withstand these illnesses and diseases, right? And that's you can justify that, surely, right? Like that's fine
Yeah,
to
that's
to an
okay.
extent.
But then you get to, like-
you start to go further, where it's like, well,
Right.
I want my baby to have blue eyes,
yeah,
or
blue eyes,
I want
blonde
my
hair.
yeah. There you go. Then it starts to get into interesting territory.
Well,
It
something I was also
does.
saying before, like a specific, I hate to base a lot of this off of a stupid video game, but another example was given. People who
just said I want to have my kid have anime eyes.
Oh no! Oh no!
It's like a Nita Battle Angel.
Oh,
People would
that
make
movie is
anime
so creepy.
characters. Oh, that would be really gross.
ugh.
I
But,
want my kid to be someone's waifu one day.
Oh no!
But okay, so a specific example is like, okay, what the argument that it only affects me. What about a case where somebody like can get some sort of like people interaction job? Say you get some sort of brain chip that like makes you more aware, pick out detail, whatever. Okay, then you're winding up with a situation with the people who can afford to get these kind of augmentations immediately have an edge over those people who can't afford it or just choose not to plug something into their brain.
Huh?
Interesting.
People augmenting themselves are, might give themselves an edge for a job or something like that over people who just straight up can't even afford it.
So, you're saying like upper class people are gonna have these like super awesome augmentations and everybody else won't?
So I said,
Sort of,
I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it. I really am.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, I can see the issue arising. I don't think, I think the robot's rights is going to be the main hurdle that we'll be dealing with in the next coming years. I think augmentation will definitely be one of those things, but I think robot rights is going to be a big one coming up. AI
I'm sure
rights.
it will. I'm
The,
sure it
the
will.
augmentation thing is
Stupid.
like it is the only thing I can see of is that like it could get into things where it's violating other people's like privacy. So you get enhanced ears, right? You can hear other people's conversations, or you get enhanced eyes that have X-ray vision, and so now you can spy on people. Like I can see that becoming a
I want
thing
my
where
kid
it's
to
like.
be a Sonic OC.
Kazapar
Oh, I saw. You know what?
Cold Steel is going to be a real person someday.
Maybe this isn't even a. No, I'm not going to bring that up. I saw a weird fact somewhere, and I'm like, I don't know if that's true even, but it was super weird. So I'm gonna forget about it.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. The idea of like, I do think that like the robot rights things are going to become more important as they essentially like take over a large part of our workforce. Which is it's gonna happen at some point, right? Like
They will. Yep.
there's gonna be a whole deal where I mean, people. It's very interesting. I've talked to a lot of other people about this, and people have different opinions. And I realize it's because like a lot of people are talking about how it's this has happened before. And obviously, this is not the first time that some level of automation has taken a job industry away. But it's the idea that like these things can learn and how fast it's going to happen. That's what's going to be the main thing, because it's going to happen too fast for people to learn how to like go around it.
Okay, you know what though? Like
The same way.
the whole idea of
it's the same rate.
the whole thing about robots taking over jobs. Honestly, for me, the kind of the scariest part about that isn't even like, oh, we're taking the jobs of other people. It's just that all the first jobs that are going to go are going to be like a lot of service jobs. So it's going to be your people working in fast food. It's going to be your waitresses and bartenders. And the thing about that is, the service industry is one that's like really interacting with a lot of people on a daily basis. There's this thing that me and my family, a lot of people I know saying, it's like, it should be required by law that everyone has to like work for a couple years in some sort of service job, whether it's cashiering, fast food, whatever, because you learn.
No, please. I can respect people already. I don't need the job.
Well, that's the thing is, so many people are so rude. It's like, if you knew what it was like to be the service person, to be on the other end, there would be I guarantee you, there'd be a lot fewer people with such a snobbish, look down their nose kind of attitude. As soon as all those jobs go to robots, everyone else it's going to be.
To be fair, though, I would say that like, yes, I think it should be required to teach everyone how to respect service jobs a little better. But if the robots have our service jobs, you don't need to respect the robots.
Yeah, you don't need to respect
but
them.
If you're not
until they start thinking from themselves.
I don't think it.
No,
it
that's
teaches you
not my
empathy.
point. My point is, service people you're interacting with a lot. Society is. Once those are robots and you can be as rude to them as you want, how much of that is going to start carrying over to other people who aren't in a service position?
It probably.
And what point do we start looking at everyone as a robot?
I do think that at some point we're going to start getting to a stage where interacting with other human beings is going to be very difficult for us, because we're going to be so separated from each other. Yeah, it already is. And it's only going to get worse. When your only interaction is with AI, and you never have to leave your house or anything. You can just order food online, Postmates. You can just buy things from Amazon. You don't need to go to a store anymore. You never need to leave your home to interact with anyone. Even like relationships, romances, that can all be AI now, it'll get
part of it,
it'll get to a point where like talking with another human being will be so hard for you because you don't know what to do. It's sort of like if you never grew out of your middle school stage, like that's where you really start to like interact with people and talk with people and learn how to be a person.
And to be honest with like the way the culture is nowadays, just how much can go wrong just by looking at a person the wrong way as far as like relationships and stuff. And AI is going to be far more appealing. It probably already is in a lot of cases.
I mean, like,
right. I mean, you don't have to deal with the problems that dealing with other people would have.
People are even problems though. You get affirmative like reactions essentially every time you do, no matter what it is. You can't be creepy to an AI, right? The AI is always going to rebuff your thing. So you're going to never have to deal with like. Not even. I wouldn't say it's problems. It's stuff that does legitimately build you as a character. As a person, it helps you mature. Like interacting with people.
You don't need to worry about boundaries when you're only dealing with robots.
Right.
Well, it's that, and just the fact that I'd say probably now more than ever, trying to ask someone out is a scarier proposition than anything else, just because of how quickly someone can claim some kind of harassment or stuff. And I'm just saying the culture nowadays is not very welcoming to
I wouldn't
any
say
interaction.
I see where you're coming from, but like, there is another thing too that like people are also. This is a side effect of like the idea of like the introvert becoming extreme, but that extreme becoming the norm. Does that make sense? Where there's always been introverted people in like every aspect of human history. I would assume there's always been introverted people, but we've only been hearing about it more and more recently, and a lot of people are talking about how they need to be they are introverted, and they need that. Sometimes they don't get a lot of like stimulation, or they exhaust them talking to people, and that's been that's perfectly fine. But now we're reaching a point where like it is possible if you're an introvert to never have to deal with people. It's getting easier to not deal with people. That's what I'm scared of.
Purple, stop drooling.
That sounds great to a point.
Yeah, right? like that sounds great, but if you don't do that, you get really. I don't mean I'm not talking about you, Purple, but you can get very immature as a person because you're not interacting with people. Your introversion turned into this thing where you are now isolated. You're not interacting with people.
You don't grow anymore. Exactly.
Yeah.
You stay in that
You
state.
do have to be in positions where you don't
my
like
gosh.
being.
You don't know how to have a
Now, hold up,
discourse
hold
with
up.
anyone, a conversation.
The way-
You don't know how to interact.
The way you fix this is you make it so that robots can get offended. We have an entire generation of experts on that now,
we
Yeah,
can train them.
and they're gonna be the ones to grow up and program the robots.
Did that really sound enticing to you, Purple? Never having to interact with someone?
Okay. Just like more jokingly, but
I mean, listen, like if all your interactions are with AI, which are just yes men, then
I feel like that gets boring though.
it would get boring, but it could also be very appealing too. You know, like you
I
can
think
see
about,
the
I mean,
appeal
listen,
to it.
that's the Logan Paul effect, right? That's like he was surrounded by.
Well, that's what'll happen when you have AI is your only
Right.
interaction. You'll become Logan Paul's. You'll be
Exactly.
immature.
Well,
You
I
don't
mean,
know how to.
that's-
You'll be disenfranchised with what is morally right and wrong. You won't be able to tell when things are bad and things that like a dead body, you know, will stop mattering to you when you don't have any respect towards human life because you don't know what human life really is. Your only interactions are with AI.
It's really getting this like we are in a very weird environment right now where I feel like some people are too easily offended and some people offend other people too easily. They don't care about
Right.
it. And there's a balance that people haven't met. And we talk like people will talk about some people are too offended nowadays. But sometimes those people will also say something. You're like, dude, that was actually really offensive, and you shouldn't have said that or done that. That was legitimately.
Yeah, like they're really insensitive.
Right, exactly. Like, and they're like, well, you know what? People are just saying that. People are just acting this way because, and it's like, actually, yeah, people are acting this way. People are getting offended too easily. But you're also acting like a jerk right now, and that was offensive. So like, you can't. It's not like
Yeah, there's a balance between the two.
Like being offended isn't automatically some horrible thing. Like it's okay to get bothered by stuff. Just don't take it to an exaggerated
I get
extreme.
bothered by purple all the time.
I know purple offends
I
me.
don't like the way you said that.
Purple bothers me.
Purple
Too
offends
much.
me like every day.
Nah, and I
just
think
kidding.
it's definitely interesting. I think it's definitely a prevalent problem, and it's fascinating because 2018 has just started, but there have been like 4 times this year already where I came to the realization that we are now in the future. Right? There have been 4 moments specifically where I'm like, wow.
The human race is just so dysfunctional.
We are now we've surpassed what humanity was before. Now we are in the future. We are in those sci-fi novels, Like there's this one particular instance in particular that I really remember where like this kid, I know that was redundant. There's a kid who had a stroke.
This image.
On,
I'm sorry, hold up. I don't want to interrupt you too much, but like I found this image. it's like the weirdest. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It makes me so.
Why is it so big?
That's a
What the-
really HD picture.
Good grief, you can see like all of her pores and like her foundation and her makeup could
Yeah, you can see the makeup.
You can see the gloss on this robot too. This is a very high quality image.
I mean, listen, this is reality though. Like, okay.
All right, go on.
So-
What was your?
But yeah, so like there was a kid who had a stroke on VR chat. And if you don't know what VR chat is, it's this game where you can like put on your like VR headset and you just hang out in these like different rooms, these like kind of chat hub things, right? But it was fascinating because this kid had a stroke and he had the full VR setup where he had like the headset, but also like the hands and like leg things. So when he stroked out, the character, the avatar in the game simulated the stroke in game. And all the other people who were in VR chat were there to see this guy start having the stroke. Or no, it wasn't a stroke, it was a seizure. So yeah, he was seizing up. And everybody was like, it was fascinating to watch because it was like everybody was like mimicking this as though it was happening in real life, because it was. But they were there, it like this kid started seizing up on the ground. Everybody was like, okay, guys, stop, back up, give him space. Let's let him have some space here. There was like a guy who was like sort of a doctor character. And
yeah, it was actually a need too, because like if he's in the VR, he's strapped in, then seeing all these things around him would kind of confuse.
Right, there was like a bunch of like.
That's the whole point of backing up. It's a visual thing.
It's a visual thing, yeah. But like that's something that you would do in real life as well, and it was fascinating because it was like, I don't know, it was like art imitating life or something, where it was like this is a real event that would happen in real life in a virtual reality with people who are separated around the world. You know, like this is someone who, I don't know, he could be in freaking South Korea or something, and you've got another guy over here who's in England, and like they're all here to witness this event happening as though that they were there in person.
It totally is too, because if you think of another video game that isn't VR chat, if you thought of like something like Halo, for example, someone has a seizure in Halo, their character just stops moving, right? But because this guy was like kind of flailing and everything, like he set himself down, the VR, the handlers, basically the thing around him, his actual avatar acted like he was kind of hurt.
Yeah.
And like you can see, it's weird because it's like real life. Like all the people are around him. They're all talking to him like, hey, get some rest, drink some water, call 911. His doctor character's helping him, but they're all avatars. So it's like there's like, there's
a really tiny McCree.
Yeah, and like the Ugandan Knuckles were there too.
Yeah, Ugandan Knuckles, or is it Ugandan Sonic? I think is there. In this image, there's like Morty from Rick and Morty is leaning over him too.
And you see this like really like freaky like rainbow like Wendy's girl that I'm pretty sure caused the seizure to begin with.
Oh man.
But yeah, it was so fascinating to me. It was almost like it was surreal, really, because you see all these characters and these like crazy like licensed characters sitting around watching this guy have a seizure, and it's just crazy to think about. And that like I watched that and I was like, man, we are in the future right now. This is crazy. And like
it maybe doesn't seem so far fetched anymore. Sorry.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, so
well, it made me think about like the possibilities of where we're going like in the next 20 years, because like we all met on chat rooms, or most of us did. TTV formed out of like most of us meeting on a chat room, a BZ Power chat room, on the based off the forum,
online, like
all online,
regardless, yeah.
But like there was this thing that happened on BZ Power where like you had different forums and categories where you can go and do different things, right? And like a lot of us were comic makers. Like we had this like comic making community where we'd make like little sprite comics based off Bionicle characters, and we'd post that on BZ Power. And like some things started happening where like you had like certain comic makers sort of form groups with other comic makers. You know, that formed the ICC, which was a comic making group, like a
yeah, it was a continuity. That's what it stood for. Basically, it was a bunch of people that had a shared universe, kind of like the Marvel universe, where it's
kind of like the Marvel universe,
but
like
cool.
all our comics took place in the same.
Yeah, but like
same
in these like
place.
little comics.
Yeah, and they like
in this one little.
Oh.
Yeah,
I think I was technically a part of that.
Did you not know about this?
What? No. Oh,
So,
that sounded fun.
There was about 9 of us. It actually grew to like 14 of us, and all of our comics took place in the same world. And so we were always we had like little strips that would just be us, and we would all be on our island, you know, and doing our stuff. But then we would guest star in each other's comics, and then like there would be a major event, and it would affect everyone's comic. And we all had we had a multi
that is such a cool idea. We should do that.
I never had that level of interaction with it.
You know what? That would be really cool.
I've actually I wanted to kind of write a book, honestly, about the Bionicle community and just like how crazy and like super weird it was and how no one knows about it.
You can call it ball joint by ball joint.
Yeah, something like that. I've honestly wanted to write this book for a while now, where it's just like, because it's so fascinating to me how this culture was established and no one knows about it, and it's just going to disappear and fade out, and no one will ever know about it.
Actually
comic making, sprite comic making is something so unique to Bionicle, not even just to Bionicle, but to one facet of Bionicle, a tiny website.
Is it really?
Well,
yeah, sprite comic making doesn't exist.
So sprite comics were a thing. They are a thing in terms of like, there's been Mega Man sprite comics, there's been Sonic sprite comics, but not in the way that we're talking about in BZ Power. BZ Power
the difference is that a lot like sprite comic making does exist, but people use like sprites ripped from games.
Pre-existing art.
Yeah, pre-existing art. There was never a thing where like sprite kits that people made with their own creations and their own art assets based off this one franchise is something that does not exist. It is wholly unique to BZ Power. Never existed outside of that website.
And
So
the
it's
notion,
just
like, everyone created their own artwork. That wasn't even a thing that, like, one person did as a special deal. The only kit that I feel was ripped from a game was the Monog kit. Everything else,
Which is
people,
ironically the one I utilized.
right?
But
I
I
mean,
was
like,
the
it
only
was a
one
very
to
detailed.
utilize it.
Yeah, it was a very rare thing, right? Everyone made their own stuff, and then not only that, people would take what other people had made and then like convert it. Like there is Tomorrow Omega that Dark 79
Oh my
made.
gosh, there was
And
so
then,
many
like,
different kinds.
And then then someone made like the Tri-Shade and then Six Shade, and then that started. And then like there's all these original tropes and like things that like no one else had. They weren't even related to Bionicle. Everyone had a studio. Right? Why are we in a studio? No one knows.
yeah.
Like,
Everybody had a
Dark 79.
comic making studio within
Right.
the universe of their comic, right?
Except for
Right.
me.
except for you. But and then everybody had that one character that was obsessed with food.
That was
Everyone had that, like-
because of Dark
and it's
79.
That wasn't
Yeah.
even intentional on my part.
Well, I know.
But
that's the
it's
thing.
like there
It's
are
weird that it still happened.
there are
There's
tropes that existed
iconic
in this
things, right.
one like format that only existed on this one site that only existed for this one franchise, this fan franchise, in this tiny facet of the internet that no one will ever know about.
There's so many phases of different things too. Like you can see that there's legitimately
You can
different
see the
eras and
evolution of
styles.
how things
Oh, yeah.
started.
Yeah,
Like
and, how they
styles, like
influence one
the
another.
growth of it.
There's a point in time where people stop using MS Paint and they start using GIMP and Photoshop, and you can see the increase in quality as it comes to like the special effects, and then like how there's a whole debate as to like if humor was better then or if it was older. And then there was like the story comics. There was like legit story comics that used the RZ
You
style.
could see the evolution of humanity in like a microcosm. It was crazy.
I've saved
It's
so many of them.
it's so fascinating. But
Remember
you know,
all the
one
arguments about hand drawn versus sprite.
yes, I do.
Comedies,
And there
versus
were
comics.
even argument. There were even like wars. Like you could see like wars between countries on a microcosm scale. Like
Yeah,
like
right.
there were like the comic makers versus the comedy writers. You know,
Right.
the people
And
who just
there was
wrote
different
scripts
continuities, too.
versus people who did artwork. They
was a-
feuded with each other. It
There
made
was
no
another
sense.
Continuity that like that
Really?
kind of was.
I
and there
didn't
was
know
also
that.
there was like a
Together
bunch
with
of people
comics.
called the Group that was like this mass a bunch of people that like kind of came together and they had their own. They didn't have a shared universe. They all just did comics of each other. So we had this thing called a multi-author comic where one person would make a comic and then the other person would make the next comic and then the other person would make the next comic, and we would all create the art assets for this comic and share them with one another. And then we would all have a premise, and mostly we would have our own author avatars be in that comic, and then we would go through an adventure. Ven had one called Civil War, where it was a bunch of the comic makers coming together that had never interacted before. But there was a lot of other people. There was like the Group had they had comics like Generic Quest. They had comics like I'm forgetting all the other ones that they made. It's been so long ago, but I've saved a lot of them. You know, the ICC, what we did, we have a lot of different events. We actually planned, you remember Takuma, we met on this separate forum called GavHub, and we planned ages and ages to do this like this multi-author series that would span every single one of our comics. They would all be intertwined. It was called Mask of Existence, and it was gonna like involve everyone in this gigantic thing. And we also had to like keep up with everyone read each other's comic series to make sure there wasn't anything continuity. If there's something contradicted something, we'd have to find a way to explain it.
I completely forgot about GavHub.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But this is so bringing it back to what I was initially saying though.
Right.
Is that
let's
like
go back to-
it's crazy to think about how far we've advanced though, because this is how we all met. We all existed in this sort of weird microcosm culture here on this one little facet of the internet. But now we are in a place in time where VR chat and like virtual reality is a thing. We could have like, if Bionicle did not come out in 2001 and we instead pushed this up to like 2030, and Bionicle came out there for the first time and we were born around that time as well, and everything repeated, but it was in 2030 instead of like a forum, we could have a virtual reality, right? We could all come together on like a virtual island of Motunui. BZ Power would be this recreation of Motunui in this virtual space where we would all walk around and like interact with each other, hang out in Likoro and stuff. And like,
Oh my god.
It would be straight up, like SAO Bionicle.
yeah, exactly. It would be SAO
Full dive and
Bionicle.
everything.
Like, okay, we were already talking about all these things that people did in their comic books, like these weird like tropes that people had. People always had a comic making studio in their comic book universe. But like, if this was VR, that could actually exist. You know, these people could build their comic making studio, and all these groups that we're talking about could actually come together, walk into the studio, and like hand draw comic books in this virtual reality space.
No, it's you're right. You're totally right. This is like there's a lot of stuff going on. With
This is the future, you know. Like, the more I think about it, the more my head just like explodes with
like
all the crazy
beginning
things
of the future, basically.
Yeah.
So,
And it all stemmed from this one little video of this guy having a seizure in VR chat. You know, like that is the greatest example of how far we've progressed as a society.
Really
is this kid having a seizure on VR chat?
Dang.
It's incredible, dude. Anyway,
that's insane. I feel like it really is telling how far we've come in terms of like, and I mean like this microcosm thing, this whole like idea that we met. I mean, we've been together for a long while. I'm actually looking at one of the comics that I made here. And it's made after this is made actually around the time I started being in TTV. In fact, I made this in a call with TTV. This comic that I'm looking at right now. It's on the screen. The URL for this.
Should link it.
Yeah.
I'm linking it right now. If you look at the URL for this, it says Christmas 2010.
You see, I never made comics that were like 12 screens long like you guys did. Mine always had a hard limit.
Yeah, I hated these like
12
infinitely
frames.
scrolling comics.
It took forever to load, and then
They were
then you had to
really-
zoom in. And
This is back when
and
like
you lost your place.
people did this stuff in like 2006 too, and it's like, okay, back then I'm loading up these BMP images and it's taking like 30 minutes.
Forever.
Oh my
I hate
gosh,
it when it was like an
BMP images
interlaced
are the worst.
PNG and you had to like wait for the entire thing to load. You couldn't just watch it, read it as it started loading. Some people, for whatever reason, would choose interlaced as like the reason they want to do with PNGs. But just to like reiterate, right? I made this in a call after we had a late night. I was making this while I was on call at TTV. It's 2010. It's been 10 years since I made this thing. Almost 10 years. It's 2018 right now. In 2 years, it'll be 10 years, not just since I was part of the Bionicle community, because it'll be way longer than that. Just since I've known you guys. We met in such a weird happenstance. We came together like through chat rooms and Skype, and now we're on Discord, but for ages we used Skype. That was the main way that we connected and talked to each other, was we would hang out in Skype
Yahoo
calls.
Messenger.
I also used MSN Messenger to talk with some people back in the day. So it is all just this whole like, it's this weird thing right now where like the kids that are going to come after us are going to have maybe kind of the same experience, but it's actually going to be completely different. It's going to change.
Far more advanced.
Far more advanced.
It's going to be so strange. Like we are
actually
definitely in
reminds me of,
go ahead.
I was going to say it reminds me of Ready Player One. Actually.
Yeah.
That was
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ready Player One is basically VR chat, except like with good graphics. But yeah, man. I feel like we're in the biggest like evolution of what we could be in, like in this like in history. Just like the way we're gonna progress towards interacting with each other and like just I don't know, just living humanity. You know what humanity actually is going to change. Like that definition will change the more we progress, because we will be interacting with people over the internet, and that will be our only interaction with people.
That's so weird to think about. That really is. That's like it's gonna be, huh? And you know what? I will say this though. We're talking about a lot of like doom and gloom scenario. Like a lot of people when our age had this conversation 20 years ago, when they're like when internet was just getting started, and they're like, it's going to ruin things, it's going to ruin friendships, it's going to do. And I wouldn't necessarily say it has. Generally, like we're looking at the worst case scenario where people grow antisocial and they don't interact with each other.
Well, I don't even think it's the worst case scenario. I'm spending this in a positive way. Like we could literally hang out on Madanui. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's true. No, that's what I'm getting at. Like right now, though, TTV was made possible because of these innovations, right? Like we didn't become as much as you think the internet might have made us more antisocial, and it could have. And I would argue that there are certain people out there whose the internet has not been great for them. Being able to act anonymously and do that has not been great. But for us, it's been a way to connect over large distances, over like tons of miles. We met each other only last year. A lot of us met each other for the last year for the first time. After knowing each other for almost 10 years at this point.
I cannot even imagine what my life would be like right now if just Lego didn't make Bionicle. Like, because of Bionicle, that eventually led into things like BZP, and BZ Power is where I tried stuff. I tried writing, I tried comics, I tried artwork, I tried so many things, working on like stuff like the wiki and like just BB code, formatting your message board messages. That was like almost like an introduction. It's like Babby's first coding, It really was.
Bionicle kind of like got me into Lego in the first place, which then got me into Ninjago, which then got me into like all my art stuff. So
Bionicle is the reason why I know a lot about, or I do anything related to, video production right now. Honestly, is the path that it led me on. Doing.
We even have our own Declaration of Independence.
What?
We have our own Declaration of Independence.
I remember.
Like, this is an actual thing that exists.
I forgot about this.
Remember this?
I
don't.
remember this.
I know you have to be part of BCPC to have remembered this. Like we even did our own like artwork. Like, okay, obviously we used Photoshop and just ripped off an actual piece of art, right? But like, I mean, this is literally like life imitating art and art imitating life, right? This is us in our chat room deciding like legislation and how we're going to rule over the chat room, our formal government for the chat room, and we made this piece of art, and it was a joke at the time, but it actually represents what was happening.
Whoa.
I even have the freaking deck. I have it right here. I'm gonna post this.
Declaration? Hold up, post it.
Yeah, I got and the signatures at the bottom.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Messinac, Barteran, Venom, our signatures. Tenebrae and Victus, our signatures right there.
Oh, I don't think I'm here.
And
You're not. You weren't a part of BZPC.
No, I mean, like LJ isn't even here. This is MT Zever. This is Vivacious. This is Mock. These are people that have been around for ages.
Like, this is actual history.
I haven't.
This is actual history.
Vivacious in so long. Good grief.
When's Bionicle History Month?
Makuta of Comedy I haven't seen.
Makuta of Comedy? I'm confusing it with Makuta of Oz. Gosh. There are legitimately days where I just stop and I think to myself, I wonder what Dude Nuva is doing with his life right now.
Oh, there's a. You know what? I remember thinking
Dude
about, like,
Nuva and Torhuki, those two are peas in a pod.
I met Tamechi Defender several times. Once in New York, once at Lego's headquarters for the thing, and I remember he was actually friends with Dokuma, who Dokuma was a very popular comic maker who made he essentially created this kind of comic making style called photorealistic comic technique is what we call it, the PRCT, where he would blend sprites in with photos. We would Photoshop out.
I've seen that before, yeah.
Where have you seen that before?
Just online.
Was it Bionicle related, or was it like something?
Yeah, it was Bionicle.
So, Awesome Ninja or Magic Ninja asked if there was a Revolutionary War before the Declaration of Independence. The funny thing is, the answer is yes.
Oh my.
Like, there's a reason we made the Declaration of Independence. It's because there was so much infighting on the original BZPC that, like, we fought so much that we ended up making, like, 4 different BZPC chats. Right? Like, there was so much fighting that we went and made different chats, and eventually we all came back together and, like, agreed upon the rules of how it would be run. Like,
it was so drama-filled back then.
Like, there's one BZPC, there's, like, the BZPC.
Didn't PAL come out of this time, too?
I think PAL did come out of this time. There's, I believe there was, like, the BZPC 2 and 3. There was one that Mange ran, Envy. He had his own BZPC. I think there was one that I had. Like, they were just, like, we were split. it was almost like a civil war until we all came back together under the Declaration.
we were talking about who were we talking about? Like we talked about the formation of TTV at New York, where kind of like you guys met through the Transformer. There was a Transformer fad going on, right? And that's why a lot of the original names are changed.
Yeah, it was a card fad. So on BZ Power, there's this, like, you have signatures for whenever you post, right? So there's a little image that shows up at the bottom of every post you make. It's sort of like
entire shops for that.
Yeah, it was like your little flair. It was something that kind of set you apart from everybody else. It was like a little piece of artwork that you can add to your post to make you kind of shine or whatever. So there was this fad that happened at BZ Power where everybody got the same signature, and the signature wasn't just a picture; it was actually interactive. Like you can play around with it.
SW.
Yeah, it was a flash file.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was really cool, really advanced
really
stuff.
Cool. The actual
and
game was really cool. Like the way it worked. It was only the reward that was only okay, but there was there were teams.
The banner itself was actually it was a game. It was an interactive game, right? And you didn't know what it was until you saw it, but like you saw it, and essentially the idea was to go around and collect cards from various Bionicle fan sites. So what you had to do was, on all these Bionicle fan sites were in on this fad. They were all in on it. They all had a secret hidden page on their website that you had to find. I don't even remember how you did it. You had to click on a link or something to find a secret hidden page that was nowhere else to be found. But essentially, if you found the page and you clicked on it, then there was a card that would show up. It had a mask on it, like one of the Bionicle masks. And you click on the card, you would collect it, and that card would go into your banner.
Whoa.
Yeah, so like you had some people with like 40 cards, like with different masks, because they went around all these Bionicle fan sites and collected these cards. So it became a fad because people were like, oh, we gotta get the most cards, or whatever. Well, there was a metagame to it as well, aside from just collecting cards. The metagame was whoever could find all the cards would win a prize. And it was whichever team could find all the cards. So there were two teams. There was the red team, and there was the blue team. So everybody on the red team had a red banner with all their red cards, and everybody on the blue team had a blue banner with their blue cards. Whichever team found all the cards would win, right? So the two teams were actually split up, and they were kind of like the team names were given like Transformer-ish names. So like you had the Auto Blues versus the Deceptoreds. It's really stupid, right? But that's how it was. I was on the red team, and I don't remember who else was there. But yeah, so I think I told the story actually. It's a couple days ago on another podcast. Anyway,
I think we were talking about it in New York. That's what you're remembering. Because we all talked about it.
No, but Wadden knows about it.
Oh, okay, never mind then.
Yeah, so I said it on a. Oh no, it was on an after show. That's what it was. Anyway, so the two teams had these Transformer names. So on our team, on the red team, we came up with Decepticon names, and that's why my name in the very beginning of IBZP was Varpanok, not Vardaran. It was a combination of Vardaran and Scorponok, the Transformer. And if you notice,
Way cooler name, to be honest.
Oh, screw you.
No.
And if you notice, every host on TTV in its really early stages during the IBZP phase, everybody had Transformer names, and that's why, is because of this stupid card fad that was going around. Like you had Varpanok, you had Star Paru, which was Naparu 411 mixed with Starscream. You had Sideswipe and Blackout, who were very uncreative with their names. They just ripped the names from Transformer characters. But yeah, so like that's just another weird, like, interesting trivia history fact of like this weird culture that existed in this weird tiny space of the internet.
I would love to see, like, I would either to do. I have thought about the book thing as well, or even just doing a documentary and seeing if we could like get footage of people, interview people at like Brick Fair or something, and kind of get
that'd be cool.
Yeah, kind of get an idea of what was going on. Just because like you're so right. There's so much when it came to that fandom and that particular area that I absolutely, I mean, it was a huge part of my life. In fact, part of the biggest deals that happened was when BZ Power's archive was wiped. And I'm sure it had like gigabytes and gigabytes of data on it, and it was probably like a whole thing to host. But
Dude,
I
BZ Power
always
got
felt bad about
nuked.
it.
That's what happened. It was the Cold War, and Russia came over and nuked
All
BZ
those
Power.
records, man. Like, listen, I literally have lost like friendships, like in that sense. Like, there are years of my life that were recorded down on those
And now it's
pages,
just
and they weren't
gone.
properly archived.
Now it's
Yeah,
gone.
now they're all gone.
Because
They're
BZ
all
Power
gone.
they got hacked, and all the archives are gone.
Like all the replies I would
always-
get to my comedies, and
I
now I
always
can't.
regret not like being able to know how the Internet Archive thing worked, and being able to go back and archive on the, send the bot through and archive all those pages. Because those were, again, those pages are about a huge chunk of my teenage years, huge chunk of my high school years, getting to know people and working on stuff. And it was interesting.
It's interesting because BZ Power went down during that time. People kind of like they grew out of it. They left. They went and did other things, and a lot of members on BZ Power never came back from that.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they died. It's like that event.
Essentially.
They could
killed
say they
them.
could be dead.
They could be dead for all we know. Yeah, like you don't know.
There
Were friendships that we had on
Yeah.
this space, this place, that were ended because someone deleted the archives and took the website down.
I mean,
There's-
like, legitimately, I don't think, like, I met Avoca Tamer because I started talking to Turakai because of the comedies. Avoca Tamer, I don't think, ever really posted a whole lot on BZP. And it's like, it's weird to me that Avoca Tamer is, like, such a, I don't know what to say, like, a facet of my life. Like, I know this person, I've talked to him for years. And it's only because I went on this tiny little community. Like, I went to the comedies forum of this tiny website and this tiny speck of the internet because of some, of a Lego line. It's the only reason I know this guy. It's the only reason he works with us.
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's even like I was thinking about like the first time Var, you did an IBZP comic. That was the first time I heard of the podcast. You did an IBZP comic, and it had
Hand drawn.
yeah, it was hand drawn. I remember leaving a comment
Yeah.
there because like we don't ever see hand drawn comics, and that was our first interaction. About at this point, it was close to 10 years ago. That had to be.
Yeah.
There. I can't whistle.
It's just,
Just, I mean,
I don't
over
know.
time, it's like, who were we saying? There's one guy who is one of the founding members of the podcast, and his mom didn't like him talking to the people on the internet, so he had to leave.
oh yeah.
Who is it?
Star Power.
Star Parter. And we were like, we had a moment in New York where it was like, it's not just the tiny things back then. It's the stuff that like we realized that like right now, like we like where we were in New York. Some people weren't there just because of small tiny things that happened when we were kids. His mom didn't want us talking to him. Therefore, I mean, had he stuck around, he probably would have been one of the founding. He was a founding member of the podcast. He would have been doing stuff with us and being part of the talent and like being who we are today. So many tiny things that happened as a kid that led to us meeting together overall. Besides us just being interested in being on the same fine side,
Mm-hmm.
Had you guys not gotten Randy Elliott? Who was the first comic maker you interviewed? Lay Gallagher?
No, it was Randy Elliott.
Was it Randy Elliott?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Whoever the first guy was, that was why I decided to join. I joined because of an interview, because you were interviewing comic people, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I'll be part of that. Like, my initial thing was as a comic maker, not to be part of, not even a YouTube channel, not to even be part of a podcast, because that's all it was back then. It was just a podcast. Man.
I found like the old cover artworks to my,
Oh,
my
gosh.
various
Wow.
comic series.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Now you've made me. I want to kind of
the
go through my.
I want to make comics again, guys. Stop me.
No,
Do it.
Oh.
Do it.
Oh, I forgot to
up,
post 2.0.
Let me see. This is totally. It looks almost exactly like Dark 709's comic.
Yeah, right.
Thank
Of course it does. Like I mean, you can see the tropes in that poster, right? Like there's the food obsessed character. He's holding a crunch bar. There's the comic making studio in the background.
Everybody had lightsabers.
Everyone had
Lots of
lightsabers for no reason.
So I just found
'Cause
this
they were
thing,
cool.
which was I wish Ven was here so we could talk about this. This was the banner to the predecessor to one of the predecessors to the TTV message boards, which was this thing called Hypor. There was this website named Hypor that Ven made during the hiatus that BZ Power is on, and I also made a website called Empire of Pixels. And the whole concept behind it is that like you could actually vote to who would become. There was a huge deal back then, like who was a mod. So you could actually mods could run campaigns, and then you would vote on who would be a mod. And that was like our website. Me and Ven ran this website even while we were while the podcast was going on. That was like a whole deal. But like, man,
Oh my god!
I'm
I'm looking
these
through
are
some of my
so-
shop stuff now too, from when I worked in like an Avatar banner shop, and there was like this one was one of my proudest works. It was an avatar for Toa. I think it was Toa Nuri, Toa of Sugar.
Sugar. Oh
That
man,
was the guy's name, but I made this, and it was one of my greatest achievements at that time.
Using food as your title was like a whole deal back then. People would be like Toa a blank, Toa sugar, Toa
Toa pizza,
mangosteen,
Toa sugar,
pizza,
Toa yeah.
Toa cookies. This is another. This is one of this is my second banner.
Live, learn, and lawsuits. Oh my god!
That was you can see right
Oh
there.
my
I
gosh.
discovered brushes for the first time. I discovered the grass brush, and I overused it.
I don't know if I ever read that comic. I don't know if I ever read your comic series much,
But you've heard of it, haven't you?
but I heard of it. I mean, there was just things you heard of. They were the popular things. Everyone knew of, Dark 709. Everyone
Dark
knew
709.
of Turakai. Everyone knew. What was her name? Gali G. She was one who wrote like short stories.
I remember. I mean, Lady Kopako. She's been on the podcast before. She was a huge artist back then.
Oh, yeah.
This is my. I did that, and then I updated the banner to like a newer one that like had more.
Oh, dude, I recognize that banner.
one.
That one I
That one.
remember.
Holy shoot!
It was such a
This
good
was,
one
like,
too.
iconic. Yeah, like it showed all like the panels in the background and.
Yeah, that
the-
one
the
was
side
really good.
characters. Yeah.
Mm.
This is
Oh,
a
I'm
time
getting
where like
hit. I'm
a
getting
lot
hit
of
with
people had,
nostalgia
like-
bombs so
I know
hard right now.
a lot of people had like Var's
Let's get my
Var's
blog stuff.
style of comics at that time. So like the Photoshop and the GIMP styles were really standing out. They were being innovated and being made here.
Yeah, I moved
No,
away
no,
from
no, no.
comic.
After I stopped doing comics, I did the caption contest in my blog. I don't know if any of you ever saw that. Like every
don't
week,
believe I did now.
every week I would just put together some sort of really random looking picture, and I had a caption contest.
I ended up moving away from comic making to focus on the Vortex kit.
I'm gonna look through some of these. Oh
I
man,
remember that.
were there any
that.
good ones?
I did
know there was some good
so
ones.
much work on that.
Wow.
Oh man, I'm literally looking through a bunch of like stuff that I haven't touched in ages.
Yeah, literally more than 5 years.
This is Ven's comic series called Civil War. It was him versus Gabla. Gabla was the number one when BZ Power essentially went down. He was the number one comic maker on the site. He had surpassed Dark 709 in terms of pages, and he's just made a ton of comics.
Did he really? I didn't know that.
Actually, it's funny. When BZ Power the archive was down, there are the four biggest comic series at that point in time. Number one is Gavla's Comics, just in terms of replies. Gavla's Comics, then Dark 709, then New Party Rocks, and then it was me. I was the fourth. I don't think I ever broke 100 though. I think I came underneath that. Oh man, all these. Oh, look how edgy this banner is. Look at this.
Oh man. Oh man.
I was never a huge fan of Vin's sort of text style.
Guys, right now we are the old people sitting on the porch in the rocking chairs talking about the good old days.
We
Purple's
are.
just here for the ride.
I have no idea what's going on, dude.
Purple and the audience are just here to indulge us as we just blather on.
Just so.
Oh, dude. Okay, so here's the map for my comics. But if you notice, I wanted to have my own island. But if you look up above, you can see the comic land. And the comic land, the comic land was the shared island between all these different comic making people.
The comic land was where Dark 709 had his comic series, and a lot of people that made or like comics after him put their comics as also in the comic land, and it kind of became this shared thing. Let me see if I
looked like a dog for some reason. I never figured out why.
It's cute.
So much stuff was on Maj host.
God, you guys remember Dark 709's comics of the movie?
Yeah, it was like a
Do
giant.
you remember
kid.
Dark
That's what it
709's
was.
comics the movie The Game?
The game? Yeah,
The
we
game?
should play the game, dude. We
wanna
should
play
do a
the
video
game.
on
I'm
it.
gonna do the video.
I still
let's
have
play
it
that
sitting
game.
on a folder on my computer.
Oh my
Same, I
god,
have
let's
it.
do that now.
Let's
Well, not now, but let's do that.
let's do that really soon though. We should get all the old people. We'll have Envy on. Well, I don't know if Meso is part of it. We'll have like Van on too. We'll play the game. I haven't played that game in ages,
You gotta get
dude.
someone who can do keyboard local co-op.
Oh, you're
'Cause
right.
That's the thing.
No, you know what?
It was-
Var.
It took a lot from, well, maybe not a lot, but it took quite a bit from like Lego Star Wars.
Here's
for
what we're gonna do. In 2 weeks, I'm gonna be at Var's place. At some point, we're gonna sit down. We're both gonna play the Dark 709 game. I haven't played that game in so long. I'm actually kind of excited about this. When Dark 709 made his movie, that was an event. There had been nothing like that attempted in the history of I mean, there have been other gifts made, but like having like what amounted to a feature-length movie, and then everyone wanted to make a movie after that. Everyone is making a movie. We actually, when we made On Air, I was like, you know what? This is my version of the movie.
Yep. If only On Air came out.
I know.
All right, well, we've ran long enough. This definitely kind of divulged into this sort of...
This became like us
yeah.
talking about the olden days.
Yeah.
It really
We had
did.
a lot of great conversations this episode, though, I think. This is a really
Yeah.
good one.
It was great.
All right, well, I hope you guys listening were able to enjoy it. It was
Yeah.
a lot of fun over here, so it was great.
Yeah.
Today's
Blog themes worth it.
If you'd like us to continue making videos like this one, you want to support this channel, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/TTV channel. You can help support us, donate to us, and you can join our Patreon chat here, which is featured in the video, and listen to our recordings over here on Discord.
Yeah.
Our Patreon shout out for today's episode is gonna be... this is a cool name. Resolution. Thank you, Resolution, for being a patron.
Yeah.
And-
it has R-E-Z. Resolution.
R-E-Z.
That's really cool.
Yeah, Res. Anyway, this has been the TV podcast. I'm Var.
I'm John.
I'm Takuma Nuva.
And I'm purple.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.